Hey, this is regular class Wednesday, September 20th. We're going to finish out our story, The Voices. Spirit game tonight. Read Priscilla's story for Friday's quiz coming up with a work day tomorrow. The whole roll of tape, you need to have a roll of tape, just like a basic little clear one that you can use to fix your notebook or tape in quizzes and stuff like that. Keep it somewhere in your locker to make life much easier. If you don't have one, it doesn't hurt me, it just hurts you, just trying to help you out. We have our homework, which officially is supposed to be assigned tomorrow, but I'm giving it to you a day early to give you more time to work on it. It doesn't change when it's due, still due next Tuesday. This will be your actual copy of what it's going to be. You have to go there for it. There's two things you download. One is the story homework. Number two, one is Priscilla and the Wimps. Most of the questions are going to come from Priscilla and the Wimps. That's the story that's going to be due Friday, trying to beat it into you. Not due till Tuesday of next week. You have 4 options on the homework this time. The questions, as before, make sure you do complete sentences. Alphabet phrase, make sure you use the letters that are up there, which is the WIMPYVOICE. You get to use those stories. Option 3, taking the quiz. Option 4 is going to be where you're going to do the 7 elements of a short story. Tell me the characters, setting, plot, point of view, and you get to connect them to either the Boy World story, which is tomorrow, or the Priscilla story, which you're reading on your own. Whew, there's a lot of talking. Now, foreshadowing. Once again, what is foreshadowing in a story? Peyton?
Finding clues in the story.
There you go. Because that's how we're going to solve our story today. It's the clues in the story to help us figure out how the thing is supposed to end. In our story so far, and this is where we go ahead and bring up our story from before, The Voices, which hopefully you've downloaded and kept somewhere safe. Who is our main character in the story? Sam. Where does our story begin?
His bedroom.
In his bedroom. And what has just happened to Sam?
He has to go to the nurse because there's voices.
Not from his bedroom? That's weird. You have a nurse at your home. Getting closer. So once again, with Sam in his bedroom, what just happened to him? Nightmare. What was his nightmare about?
His parents died.
His parents dying. Ooh, what woke Sam up?
His dog?
No. Kinley? His own scream. And that's when he was sitting there and he was like, ah, and he woke up because it was a bad nightmare. We all have those horrible things, usually mine's about children. And then before he falls back asleep, he gets a small surprise. What's his small surprise when he falls back asleep? Kinley? You're on fire, Kinley. Voices! And that's when you get the one who say, what is it? We're coming, and then dead. Then the story jumps. And it jumps to a new location. And where's our new location? School. And the scariest of all locations is?
Math class.
No, math class is next. Science class. For some kids, this class, as it should be. But my class is not in the story yet. And so here it's in science class, which is first period. And the voices are not talking to him yet. But he has some other issue. And what's his new issue?
The white stuff. I can't see.
His eyeballs keep turning completely white and freaking him out. So he says it goes completely white, like a piece of paper, like it's just right there. And he's like, all I see is whiteness. And then he also feels a pressure pushing on his eyes. I mean, don't jab yourself like that. I mean, but just like a little pressury thing, like pushing, and it goes all white, and then it flips eyes, and it freaks out. And then, not Tom, where does he want to go? He wants to go to the nurse to help fix it. But before he gets to the nurse, what happens to him?
He gets worried, and he's like, no, I don't want to die. I was coming stuff in the science class.
Close.
He hears the voices in the hallway.
Hears the voices, and then says,
And says, I don't want to die.
is figuring out, because what is it the voices keep talking about?
Death.
Keep talking about death, and that's what's freaking him out. Do we have a guess as to what it is?
A ghost.
I say a ghost. Works for me. Ghosts are kind of creepy. So I think someone had said like it was a younger sibling hiding under the bed.
I think he just meant.
Gets more impressive if they can do it in the classroom at school and find a way to poke you in the eyeballs. In that case, your younger sibling may be a superhero or super villain. He could just be mental. Always an option. I've known a lot of kids. A lot of them are mental. Lizzie?
Are his parents still alive?
Well, I mean, as far as we know, yes. I mean, he hasn't said anything about them being dead, but, I mean, if it'd make you happier, we can probably get rid of them. It's just like, I mean, I know some students want people just to die off, but not everyone might be that way. Then, we're going to jump to a new scene. So that 4th column all the way over, because we finished the first 3 columns in that 4th column where it has the ... This is where it's going to jump to a new location again. Man, Trevor said at lunch, you really had us freaked out today in Larks' class. I thought you were going to go all like psycho on us or something. Your eyes were all flipped out, and the way you kept talking about dead people and stuff, that was spooky. You sure you're okay? Sam looked up from his sloppy Joe and gave his friend a smile. I don't know if you'd say I'm okay, but I'm feeling better at least. This morning's really sucked, Trev. I don't even think I could put it into words how messed up it's been. He took another bite of the sandwich and chewed slowly, looking at his plate. Are you going to try? The question coming from his friend. Try what? Sheesh. To explain it to me, Trevor said in an exasperated tone. Excuse me. I haven't spoken with you since Mrs. Larks took you to the nurse. You say weird stuff has been happening. Well, what kind of weird stuff? Well, voices for one thing. I've been hearing voices. Apparently from people that aren't there. I can hear them just fine, but I seem to be the only one. Wow. Voices. Really? That's kind of cool. That's like full-blown crazy person stuff. I've never known a real crazy person before. Sam looked up at his friend in time to see his smile. It's not funny, Trevor. It's really scaring me. And there are bright lights going off in my eyes. It's like I'm looking at a light bulb with only one eye. It doesn't hurt, but it's weird and it's creepy and I don't like it. And I want it to stop. And you're bleeding, Trevor said. No, Trev, it's all been in my head so far. I haven't actually been hurt or anything. No, man, you're bleeding, Trevor said excitedly. Check out your arm. What? Sam asked and looked down at his right arm. Trevor was right. There was blood coming out of the crook of his elbow. It seemed to be quite a bit of blood, too. You guys know where the crook is?
No.
It's the inner bit right there.
Oh, inner,
So
not
that's
outer,
the
sorry.
outer bit. The crook just means like the inner bitty bit. What the? Sam exclaimed while swiping at his arm. The arm tingled now and it felt funny, but it didn't really hurt. He grabbed some napkins off his tray and wiped at the blood. He saw it was coming out of a small hole on the inner bend of his elbow. It was right on the vein. It was like the vein had just opened up and started shooting blood out on its own. What's wrong with it? Trevor blurted, and then asked more quietly, Is there anything I can do to help? Yeah, Sam replied. Give me your napkins and go get a large Band-Aid. What's wrong? A soft voice asked. Sam spun in his chair to see nobody near him. Who said that? Stop fighting it! A much stronger voice resounded on his other side. He quickly looked to the side of the new voice and saw the same sight. Nothing. Losing him. The soft voice again. It sounded, what was it, anxious? Worried? He wasn't sure, but it didn't sound good. Falling. A new voice this time, but what was falling? Sam thought he missed the beginning of whatever it was the voice said, and it bothered him. Something important was falling, and it seemed to involve him. So, real quick, new location. Where's the new location?
Cafeteria.
In the lunch cafeteria. And now we have a new issue. And what's his new issue?
He's bleeding.
He is bleeding.
And a third voice.
And the third voice. Now you have to hold on to your guesses, because now we get to push through the very end. Your guesses, you're starting to pick up on some of the foreshadowing clues. Some of you who are starting to get ideas of what you think are happening in the story, if you keep paying attention to these clues, it becomes a bit more obvious. This next time the voices talk, we'll really start giving away clues as he now jumps to the scariest place of all. More class? No. Math class, but the next best thing. He didn't know any of this. Sam looked at the math test again and sighed. All that studying he had done, and it was no help. None of these questions made any sense to him. It was almost like it was written in a language he couldn't understand. He looked at the first question and rubbed at the bandage on his arm. The stupid thing still hurt, wouldn't stop bleeding. It had been bleeding for almost 2 hours now. Stupid slow trickle that didn't seem to stop. Sam snuck a quick peek around the room to see if anyone else was having trouble with the test. No one else was looking up. They all seemed to be writing furiously. All right then, Sam said quietly to himself. I studied. This should be easy. Let's try the first problem again. How do you get the square root of... Not gonna make it! Said a loud voice just above his left ear. Aw, not again! Sam moaned out loud. Make the voices stop! Tell me who you're talking about! You're driving me crazy! Sam finished his rant in a voice loud enough to nearly qualify as a shout. Well, Mr. Tynes, talking during a test will drive me crazy. his algebra teacher, Mr. Finns, told him. "I've heard you've had a rough day, Samuel, but please keep quiet during the test." "Shock him!" The voice was louder now and almost seemed angry. I'm shocked, Sam shouted back at the voice. "This whole freaking day's been shocking. I don't want any more surprises. If you want to really shock me, try leaving me alone. Yeah, that would shock me." "Mr. Tynes, I am shocked also. I am shocked a good student such as yourself would behave like this. That is quite enough. I will not have an outburst like that in class, especially during a Clear! The voice drowned out Mr. Finn's last few words. The voice was insistent this time, almost yelling, but not sounding like it was directed at him. Sam stood and looked around the room. "Is what clear? Nothing is clear. I don't understand any of the pain that suddenly shot through his chest, knocked him off his feet, and dropped him onto his butt. His heart and lungs and chest had just simply exploded. His eyes swam with the pain. His buzzing fingertips reminded him of the time he electrocuted himself screwing in the light bulb up in his attic.
Oh, I've done
He
that.
slowly looked down his chest to see how big the gunshot wound was. It had to have been a bullet. Nothing else could possibly hurt this much. Nothing. No blood. No hole. No bullet. Just intense pain. It hurt so much he could do little more than sit there with his mouth open and gawk at his own uninjured chest. "No response!" the voice yelled at him. "What the bejesus?" Sam cried. "What do you mean no response? What kind of response did you want?" It knocked him off his feet. It made his chest explode. He felt like he was dying. "Clear!" the voice bellowed at him. "No, it's not," squeaked Sam in a whisper. "I don't know what you want. How can it be clear? Who are you? Why are you doing..." Another explosion of pain blasted his chest. He could actually feel his body jerk and jump as something like electricity shot through his entire body. His vision blurred, and he could see the classroom and the stunned expressions of his classmates and teacher as they melted into the whiteness that was surrounding his vision. His hearing seemed to fade as the classroom sounds dissolved. "I'm dying. So this is what it's like. But why? Why'd they have to kill me? What'd I do to them?" "Stable," he heard the soft voice tell him as his consciousness blinked out.
Oh,
I know.
I know.
We're going to keep going. I know. Now all of a sudden those foreshadowing clues are getting a little bit stronger and you're starting to get the idea of what happened to him. So let's find out how close you are. Sam awoke and saw a white room he didn't recognize. He could smell disinfectant. He heard the voices of people far away, maybe in a hallway. He tried to sit up, but was stopped by the pain that shot through his body. Oh, man, he hurt. That last shock hadn't killed him, but his body sure ached like it had tried. "Thought we lost you," a voice said from off to his left. The soft voice he'd heard before, so the voices weren't done with him yet. "Not again," Sam told the voice. "Why can't you all just leave me alone?" "Because you probably would have died if we'd done that," the voice replied. The voice had just answered him. The voices never answered. They just spoke. He slowly turned his head to that side. "So, how are you feeling, kiddo?" The nurse standing next to his bed asked, using the voice he had come to recognize and dread. "Who are you? Where am I? What's going on? How did you manage to..." He trailed off, looking at this lady who was staring at him and adjusting a clear plastic bag hanging on a pole next to his bed. His eyes followed the thin tube connected to the bottom of the bag, followed it down until it connected with his arm, connected with a needle inserted into the bend of his right elbow, exactly where he'd been bleeding before. "You were incredibly lucky to survive that car wreck. If you hadn't been wearing your seatbelt, then you'd have been thrown through the window, just like your..." She stopped short and looked at him again. It was a concerned, motherly look. "Well, you're lucky to be alive anyway." "Car wreck? What car wreck? You mean the one in my dream?" The nurse wrinkled her nose and gave him an odd look. "That was no dream, sweetie. That was more like a nightmare. And from what I understand, you almost died last night in the emergency room, too. Your heart just stopped. The doctors had to shock you to get your heart started." "Shock me?" Sam asked. An eerie thought was beginning to creep up Sam's spine and nudge its way into his brain. "Yes, Sam. They had to use the defibrillators to get your heart beating again. If they hadn't, well, you'd be dead right now." And there the story ends.
Yo, that's...
That's a cool story.
I get it.
There was no English class though.
No, there was not. It could not get that scary. So our foreshadowing clues. Sam sees white lights. Well, actually, back up. Where is Sam at the end of the story?
Hospital.
In the hospital. What happened to Sam?
He was in a car crash.
He was in a car crash. What happened to Sam's parents?
They died.
How would we guess that?
The car accident.
Talks about flying through the window and stuff like that. So the whole story, where was Sam?
In the hospital.
Either in the hospital or before the hospital,
In the car.
somewhere like maybe wherever the car wreck was or something along those lines. So the whole story is taking place where then?
In his head.
In his head. And so he's sort of in that dream state where you're sort of bringing in all the stuff around you.
He's kind of.
So the things happening to him, he works into his dream state. When Sam sees white lights going from one eye to the other eye, and then he feels a pressure on his eyes, what's happening in the real world at that time?
He's getting shocked.
No.
They're checking his eyes, super dilated.
There you go. When they shine the flashlight in your eyes from one to the
Oh.
other, and they open your eye real wide, and they shine, that's why he said he kept feeling like a weird pressure, and then one eye went all white, and so that was the paramedics checking eyes for the flashlight. When he has the blood that starts coming out of his arm,
Ivy.
that would be the IV, when at some point they were trying to save him, as they put the IV into it. And of course, what are the voices saying at the time when he's trying to do that? Close, but not quite on that part.
Don't stop it. Don't stop fighting.
Stop fighting it. Because what is he doing?
Probably
Trying to take it out.
So I'm guessing in the real world he's like, they're like, kid, stop fighting it. He's like, and so that's why he keeps trying to slap at it with his arm. And so that's why they're telling him to stop fighting it and then losing him. And then the voice says falling. Do you know what the fluid is falling?
His heart rate.
There you go. And they're saying, he's like, it sounds like something important is falling. He doesn't know what it is. And then right after they say falling, the next thing that happens to him is,
His chest explodes.
why does his chest explode?
Because they hit him with
The little shock paddles, the defibrillators. So apparently his, whatever was going on with him, that's when his heart stops, and the doctors use the shock paddles to save him. And then the voices say, they're all dead. They're referring to
his parents.
whoever was in the car with him, his parents, and stuff like that, because that's the very first thing we hear. So I'm guessing it's him being sitting in the car, paramedics are showing up, and that's when he hears them all saying, they're all dead, and stuff like that. The voices say, you guys got that one already. And then he has a dream about his family dying in a car wreck.
That wasn't a dream, it was real life.
And of course, what makes it even worse, at the very beginning of it, he talks about how he can smell things, and he connects it to a barbecue. Let that sit in your head and scare you for a moment.
Oh gosh.
His parents got barbecue.
Yep.
3rd degree burn.
Then, for our mountain, let's see how well we can make our connections here. We have, with short story mountain, what's the first part of the mountain?
Salmon's.
No, just in general, the definition is exposition, then,
Rising action.
then,
Climax.
then,
Falling action.
then.
Resolution.
So we're going to, once again, see if you can pick out which one goes to which in this story. So I'll read through them. Sam argues with the voices and they attempt to kill him. Sam realizes that the voices were people helping him. Sam is a kid having bad dreams at home and hearing voices. Sam wakes up in the hospital and isn't actually dead. The voices start haunting Sam throughout the day and trying to hurt him. So we start off with exposition. So raise your hand when we get to exposition. This one?
No.
This one? This one? This one? All right, good job. What comes after exposition?
Rising action.
All right, so rising action, rising action, rising action, rising action.
Oh, sorry, dang.
That's correct. After rising action is
Climax.
climax, climax, climax. No, try it again. Climax, climax. And then what comes after climax?
Falling action.
And then
Resolution.
there you go. Those of you who owe me work, of course, going to come bring it to me because I'm so proud.